Into coding for all. Today's tutorial will be covering Python keywords and identifiers. Let's get right into it. Now, Python keywords are the reserved words in Python, and usually the Python keywords they all start with lower cases except for true, false, or none. So these are some of the examples of the keywords that we have in Python. When we are talking of these keywords, they are the keywords which cannot be used as variables, names, or function names, or any other identifiers. So keywords, we can use keywords as identifiers, and we'll be coming down to identifiers soon. And yes, so we're coming down to identifiers soon. So these are a few of the keywords that are available, and you shouldn't try to learn all the keywords that are over here. I mean, once you are getting in deeper and deeper into what Python is and how we can learn Python and use Python easily and become masters over Python, we'll come across these keywords. But they're just a few that we can look at to and understand what these keywords actually mean. And usually, when also we are using an IDE and you are writing Python, whenever you are using those keywords as an identifier, you realize that those keywords will give you a syntax error. But before you even run your syntax, you will have you realize those keywords are highlighted differently from the way an identifier or whatever class you are naming it as you are using your keyword as should be named. So okay, so and then when we come down to identifiers, we have identifiers, and identifiers are names given to entities like classes, functions, variables. It helps to differentiate one entity from another. So that is with identifiers. It just comes from the term identity, meaning to be able to locate something with a name. And with identifiers also, there are some rules that you are supposed to know about when using identifiers. Some of those rules include, with identifiers, you can start with a lowercase or an uppercase, and then you can also use underscores. You can also use digits. But when using digits, you can't start an identifier with a digit. You can start with a lowercase text or an uppercase text, and then you later on use the digits in there, or you can start with an underscore. Another thing that you are supposed to know about identifiers is that with the identifiers, you can't use keywords as identifiers as stated above. Once you use the keywords as identifiers, you have a syntax error. Then another thing that you're supposed to know is with identifiers, they can be as long as you want it to be. Once you want to write long identifiers, then you have to use the underscore to be able to differentiate, to be able to use the underscores as a spacing out to be able to write those long characters. Once that you write an identifier and there's spaces within it, it will give you a syntax error because it wouldn't know what you are writing. Then the last thing about identifiers is you can use special characters. Yes, you can use special characters or symbols as identifiers. You also receive a syntax error, and you are supposed to take notes over here. I've written it. Python is a case-sensitive language. This means that this variable written over here is different from this variable written over here. So once you are writing an identifier, so maybe you give an identifier as a is equal to 2, and that a you're assigned is a lowercase a, and then you want to call that small a, and then you use a capital A, then you are going to have a syntax error. If you want to know more about keywords, you just do import keyword, and then you print the keyword KW list. So this is going to give us all the keywords that are available in Python. So Control B. Now we have our results over here, and then we have all the keywords that are available in Python. So you realize false is starting with a capital letter, none is starting with a capital letter, true a capital letter, but the rest are starting with small letters. Right. So these are a few examples. So assuming we print this, print he is a boy. Now this is just a string, so we have he is a boy over here. Now if we should print this, we realize we'll get a different, we have false over here. Now in here, these whole words are 1. he is a boy. They are within a string. But in here, I separated the he from the a boy with a is within them. So you realize this is one string and we have another string over here, and this is without a string. And that is what is separating these two strings. Now this string, because this is not within this string, Python is not taking it as it is. Now it is taking this is as a keyword which it has defined. So keywords are more of, we can also say that keywords are those words that are reserved in Python and have been defined and have been given a particular function to execute when being used. So in here, once I use is, Python has a definition for this is over here, and this is that something in Python. So what it does is that it validates and assesses if what you are using it for is a boolean, whether it is true or false. So I said he is a boy. Now he is asking, did you mean equal to? Over here he's saying this syntax is an error. It's giving me a warning, and it's asking whether I meant to use is equal to. Nevertheless, it gave me false because he is not a boy. The reason why it is saying that is because I haven't defined anything as he is a boy, so it doesn't know it, so it is false. Okay, so let's go down here and let's see what happens when we print. Another example, when I print this a is equal to 1 2 3 4, it doesn't give me anything because I'm not printing a. So the next thing I do is, so realize a here is an identifier, right? A is an identifier. So this is a list, and now we are using this identifier a to identify to this list. So anytime we call a, all of this list should appear. Now I said it should, so let's print the a so that we see. So print a. When we printed a, you saw, now we see everything showing over here. We have 1 2 3 4. That's, we've printed a. So let me just, so that you can have a visual. So we've printed a, and then we are having this over here. And then I said it should print 1 in a. Now we can see that a is a list, and there is 1, there is 2, there is 3, there is 4 in a. So I said it should just check if there is 1 in a. Now this one I haven't defined. Now this in over here, I haven't defined it. It is a keyword, a special word in Python, and it has a meaning, and it checks whether there is a value is exists or is in another value. So when I used it, it assessed whether 1 is actually in this list which I've assigned to the variable or the identifier a, and then it came as true, right? Okay, now let's try this and let's see. Now I said it should print 5 in a. So once I print it, it will give me false, right? Why? Because there is no 5 within this a. Now let's look at some of the examples of some of the examples when you use when you violate some of the rules of using keywords. So let's say I say maybe a. So I'm using a special character in here. It's equal to 1. Let's see what will happen. Wow, syntax error. Why? Because I'm using a special character. Now let me say this one should be C, and then let me print C. Right, it came correctly. Now let me print C. So I have my C showing over here as 1. Okay, now let me use capital C. Remember, we said when using variables are Python is case sensitive. So once you use a small letter once you use a small letter and then you call that small letter using a big a big letter, it wouldn't show. So now let's use capital C over here. Let's see. Now we have name error. Why? Name C is not defined. I haven't defined or assigned any value to the C, this C over here. The value that I assigned was being assigned to this small letter C, and this small letter C is not over here. Now, so I have to change this back to small letter C for it to work. And then I print it. And then we have our value showing. Yes, I'm supposed to save it first. Then we come back to our value over here. Then again, let's try using a decade to start, and let's see whether it will work. So let's say we say 2C is equal to this. Now let's print 2C. Right? Syntax error. Why? Because I used the decade in starting. So let's change it, and let's use C2 should be equal to this. Let's try and print C2 and see. Now I have it working over here 1, because I started with a text and then later on added the decade. So this is just about keywords and then identifiers in Python. And as we go on more, there are more ways to be able to use this to be able to produce more complex Python scripts and programs. See you next time in our next episode. Subscribe to this channel, Coding for All. Bye then.